Speed is probably the most respected attribute on the track, and if a rider can see that someone else is faster than they are, the assumption is often made that the faster rider is a better rider and that they must know something they don't. But that isn't always the case, and in this video I wanted to go over some thoughts for consideration when looking to learn from the faster riders around us and just how much we should be looking to learn from them. The respect that comes from speed when a slower rider is looking at a faster rider often leads them to blindly emulate what they're doing, thinking that if they can do the same thing, then they'll be just as fast as them. Well, let's start by clearing up something that many people don't realize, which is that lap times do not equal rider quality. Just because a rider can go faster than you over a lap, it doesn't mean that that rider is better than you. At track day level in particular, the vast majority of the difference in speed between the fastest and slowest guys on any given day simply comes down to the faster guys having a greater confidence to use more of the bike's potential, meaning they're comfortable using more brakes, more lean angle and more throttle. Now, you might be able to run much tidier and consistent laps, hitting your spots nicely and doing all the right things to keep the bike stable and in check. However, you could still be embarrassed, lap times wise, by a rider that isn't doing any of that stuff and just flies towards the traction limits without fear. I've met a few of those riders over the years, and with my progress being far more steady, I'd be lying if I said I didn't envy them and their ability to just race into the unknown, generating far more speed than I was capable of at the time, sometimes with far less experience. Even so, seeing the more frequent negative consequences of testing the limits in that way made me feel better about my personal path to higher speeds. The point I'm making here is that speed alone doesn't mean a rider is doing a better job than you as an all-round rider of the track, and that you shouldn't immediately start copying what they're doing through every corner. Fast and safe should be your goal. All of that said, observing faster riders is most definitely a valuable tool in unlocking speed for yourself at the track that you ride. A better way to view faster riders is to use them as a general gauge of where you are losing speed and time, and this can be done on the track itself or through the use of video. On the track, if you can see that you brake at a similar point, but by the time they reach the apex they're an extra 10 meters ahead, you know they're running more speed into the corner. Or if you see them creating a gap as you drive off the corner, you know it's the corner exit that needs to be improved, assuming similar machinery. This can be done through the use of video too. With a little computer dexterity, I've lined up videos in the past, one of which being my own, and watched different parts of a lap to see where the time was being lost on my part. Once you have that data, you can bring it back into the context of your own riding to see if there's something you can change to improve in the area that you found to be lacking. And that's an important point to make here. Blindly following into the unknown purely because someone is faster is a surefire way to have you in situations you're not used to. Now, this isn't always bad, and sometimes we need to get uncomfortable to progress, but if it forces you to take a totally different approach to what you already know, you could be at risk of falling into a panic situation. Instead, consider your own riding and what you need to change from what you currently do in order to get the result you're after. So like our rider that noticed that the other rider was heading into the corners with more speed but braking at the same point, this tells them that the other rider is braking a little less aggressively and/or releasing the brake a little earlier as they approach the corner. Now they have a plan to make an improvement. Work to release the brakes a little bit earlier and roll more speed into the corner. Doing it this way and bringing it back to your own riding is going to give you a much better idea of what's going to bring an improvement, like we just said, but also when you do get an improvement, you'll know exactly what you did to achieve it, something that can be taken to any corner on any track you ride. But listen, I get it. Learning from faster riders can shortcut a few things like where you should be performing each action and the more ideal lines and approach you should be taking. For that reason, I'll never simply say ignore everyone else because there will be things that can be learned and taken away. But again, it should be regarded merely as extra data. Use that data as an addition to help you get a result, but always be wary of where you are and what you're doing on the track. How has your progress been on the track, and what help have other riders given to you along your journey? Tell us about it in the comments down below, and as always, if you like the video then please hit the button and subscribe to the channel for more performance riding advice and guides moving forward. Take care.